Welcome to the Finding Your Freedom podcast, the podcast helping high-achieving professionals thrive with freedom and purpose. I'm your host, Nat Baldwin. In each episode, we'll explore transformative journeys, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to help you create a life aligned with your true values. Whether you're seeking to optimize your current role or explore new paths, this podcast is your guide. Imagine walking away from a six-figure salary, a decades-long career, and the comfort of stability to chase a dream that aligns with your true values. That's exactly what Steve Barrett did. After 30 years in corporate retail, Steve faced pivotal moments, including personal loss, that forced him to reevaluate his life. Didn't just dream of change, he took bold steps to make it happen. In this episode, Steve shares his journey from the hamster wheel of societal expectations to building a coaching business rooted in helping others unlock their potential. You'll hear how he transitioned from chasing promotions and status to living a simpler, more meaningful life in sunny Spain. Along the way, Steve discovered how aligning with his purpose transformed not only his career, but his entire perspective on life. What makes this conversation especially valuable for high-achieving professionals is Steve's practical insights into navigating uncertainty and change. How do you figure out what's next when your identity is tied to your career? How do you step away from financial security without losing yourself? How do you rebuild after hitting rock bottom? Stay tuned as Steve reveals the turning points that led to his transformation, actionable strategies for finding clarity in chaos, and why embracing your unique strengths is key to thriving in any transition. Plus, don't miss the Freedom Challenge at the end, a powerful exercise designed to help you envisage your best life imaginable. If you've ever felt stuck or wondered what it would take to live a life true to yourself, this episode will challenge and inspire you. Right, enough waffle, let's dive in. Well, let's get straight into it. Perhaps you could just start for describing for everyone what your life was kind of like in your previous career before you made your change.
Yeah, so long career, as you can probably tell. So I did 30 years of leadership roles, started off in retail when I took the world's longest year out from university. So worked my way up through various roles, store management roles in retail, up to regional manager, regional director roles, operations director. And then that all came to an end in December when I finished and went my own way, followed my dream and set up what I've kind of wanted to do for a very long time.
Fantastic. And so tell us just a bit more about what that career was like and what your life was like on a day-to-day basis back then.
Yeah, so I probably did what most people did, which is you fall into something. No one when they're at school or at college thinks, I really want to work in retail. It just kind of happened. And then I followed that career path. So I was driven at the time by job titles, bit by money, by the promotions, by the status, and a lot by proving that I could do it and proving that I could do more, because there's probably always a few doubters that sort of think when you're doing that career and you haven't done a degree that you're only going to get to a certain point and then the wheels come off and you get stuck. So I was always motivated by just trying to show myself and show other people that I could keep doing more. And what that really worked out with when I look back at it was loads of hours, very long hours, married to the job really, a lot for a long part of my life. So it would be every day pretty much, even when I was off, couldn't really switch off because you're thinking about things, you're thinking about work. I did field roles where I was traveling loads and loads of miles. I think one of the roles I had, I was probably driving about 1,000 miles a week on top of all the other stuff. And
Wow.
I got to a point, it's just the satisfaction of it goes. So you get to a point, I think, where you know, people are looking at what you're doing and what you're achieving and thinking it's great. But inside you're thinking, been here, done this before. Okay, this again, here we go again. And the satisfaction of it just goes. So that's the point I got to. And that probably started coming to real fruition probably around 2018. And then it was a case of sort of reconnecting with my purpose and my values as to what I really wanted to do. And that's really what led me to what I'm doing now.
Really sounds like quite a common story, would you think, with lots of people who find themselves in that type of career. If you take yourself back to that time when you were driving hundreds, thousands of miles around the country, how did you feel kind of within yourself doing that type of role?
at that point really crappy because it's unhealthy as well. So if I look at how I was then, you do all those miles, my diet was crap. I was sitting a lot. I was probably about 3 stone heavier than I am now, just not in a really good place. So I took control of that just before I hit 40, where it's like, no, I need to do something about this now. Because it was like, energy levels going down and I wasn't in a good place with it. And I think, as you say, a lot of people get in that space where you do things, you go through the motions and you just keep doing it and doing it, even though it's not really where you want to be, because it's pretty hard to change. I mean, if you think of a career, if you've only ever done one thing or one type of thing, you can go to different sectors, you can go to different businesses, but essentially you're going to do the same thing unless you take a big drop in salary, which most people in those positions can't really afford to do. And I was one of those at that time.
Yeah. And what was there an epiphany moment, or what sparked the change for you?
So I got divorced. I left my wife in 2017. It was actually my father died. So it was all these things happened within a couple of months of each other. And I remember he died, and going through a lot of personal possessions and sorting out a load of stuff because I was the oldest son. And you just see things talking about money, worrying about money, all these things about regrets, about things that could have been done, but that weren't done, dreams that he'd had that he didn't ever fulfill. And I think it was those things. And then that kind of just sparked something inside me that actually, am I really happy with the life that I've got? Am I really happy with what I'm doing? And the answer was no. So that was probably the big turning point for me.
So it was divorce and also this combining with your father passing away.
Yeah, and it was, I started mixing in different circles, having some fun again, because I think fun was kind of missing for a period of time. Not really down to anything else other than the career and the working, because the last role I had before that, I was getting the train into London at 5:25 every morning, and I was getting back home at probably 6, 7 p.m. most days. And when you're in that Monday to Friday, you get to the weekend, you're half dead. And that was pretty much life. So, yeah.
Doesn't leave a lot of time for anything else, does it?
Not a lot else. Not a lot else. There wasn't a lot else, to be fair.
What you described there, some people would maybe describe that as burnout. Does that resonate with you, that word? Or how would you describe it?
I don't think it was. I think it was more just, I was probably just living the stereotypical life, the life that was expected of me and the life that I'd sort of fallen into and just went with. So I think it was more that with me, and it just wasn't. I think when you're in that position, you're never really fulfilled, are you? And you just, people search for answers or people just accept it. And I'm not the type of person that will accept something if it isn't right. I'll do something about it.
What happened from there?
I ended up moving back to London. So I was with a new partner who's now my wife. And yeah, so I was still doing the same types of jobs. But I guess what it really did for me, it just made me refocus. The job wasn't my be all and end all at that point. It was more about, no, let's enjoy life. So we started doing lots of traveling. We'd go to city breaks really regularly and just those sort of things, just having a bit of fun again. Because I guess with what I did from working seriously from the age of 18 onwards, just sacrificed a lot. So, there wasn't loads of holidays, there wasn't loads of fun. If there was an opportunity to do something else or work was going to be in the way, I was that guy, unfortunately, that would focus on the work or would do the work or would do the serious stuff rather than the bits that were going to give me some sort of satisfaction. And I think at the time, I probably wasn't even aware of it, that was the case.
So what were some of the biggest changes you made in that time from a practical perspective, do you think? You mentioned fun and going traveling and maybe reigniting that passion, but were there other things?
There was a lot of self-reflection, because I think when you get in that situation and something isn't right and things are changing, you don't always know at the time what it is that isn't right and what needs to change. You just know it needs to change. I was in that space for quite a long time. I had a daughter from that marriage, so on weekends I would still be going back to see my daughter. That was a 2-hour each way trip, so I was doing that every weekend as well. I still wanted to be present. I still wanted to try and provide support. But yeah, as I say, I didn't have the answers at that point. It was just a case of reflect and try and figure it out and muddle through as to what those answers were. And I think it really sort of came, pandemic, not because of the whole COVID thing, but I think just because life kind of changed, didn't it? Because we're all like well, we were meant to be like prisoners in our own home. And I think when you get that sort of thing, I really use that as an opportunity because, I read a lot. I've always sort of been into educating myself. I'm quite a thoughtful person as well. So I put a lot of thought into, okay, what do I really want to do next? And it was kind of that period of time where I sort of started getting the answers, probably because I had more time to really reflect on it, because lots of other stuff that you'd normally be doing in life was kind of taken away from you.
It makes sense. It was a big period of change, wasn't it, for a lot of people, the lockdown and chance to reflect for people. So what were the outcomes from that self-reflection?
I'm thinking about the jobs that I've done and, why I was getting like zero satisfaction from it anymore. And what that led me to was thinking about the times in my career that I could remember and the bits that I still felt really proud about. And do you know what? Literally none of them were anything to do with what I'd achieved. All the moments I could think of, I'd think of the people that I'd developed. I'd think of the people that I'd helped. I'd think of what other people were doing now. Having people that had worked for me in the past that have gone on and created their own businesses and been, mega successful. Seeing people go on to, these big roles in other businesses as well. I felt more satisfied that I'd probably played a part in that than the stuff I'd done myself. And I think that was kind of the clue, because if I look at what my purpose is, for me, I always sort of frame it really simply. It's to make things better. And I do a lot of that through the stuff that I try to do with other people, whether it's helping people that are going to be successful to be successful, or equally when, I've worked with people that have had a pretty shitty start in life and being able to play a part in making their life better, whether it be sort of keep putting people a bit more on the straight and narrow. Sounds ironic coming from me when I say that, but yeah, I did do a little bit of that. Or just giving people belief in themselves that they can do a lot more than they were probably told they could do, or that they really believe they could do at that point. There are the moments with me where it's sort of dropped and it's like, hey, there's something here with this.
So rewarding. And I can just feel like your energy picks up when you start talking about that, talking about helping people, and you're obviously extremely passionate about that. And definitely a lot of what you said that resonates with me when I think back to my corporate career, and like the most rewarding bits have been helping. So tell us about your new life then, and what that looks like now.
Yeah, I think the jury's still out as to whether I've been brave or whether I've been a lunatic. I guess I kind of put it, well, kind of like, what's the difference? Because there isn't really. So yeah, walking away from a 6-figure salary, walking away from all the comfort that comes with that, getting paid, living a really comfortable life. Do you know what? I didn't even realize or appreciate the money until it came to the first month of when you look and you go, oh, today would be payday and I've got nothing.
Same as yesterday.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, this is different. But again, that's been an absolute blessing in a weird way, because it's made me more appreciative of things. So whereas before you'd just go out and you'd spend money, you'd buy things and you wouldn't really think too much about it. That kind of makes you reframe. And what we found was we started appreciating the little things in life a bit more. The move to Spain was awesome. Obviously, there's been a couple of hiccups along the way with that, but it was all kind of part of the plan. I wanted to do that for a couple of different reasons. But yeah, so far, so good. I mean, I'm still working a lot. I'm working long hours, but I don't really call it work, because it doesn't feel like work. And I think when you are aligned to your purpose and you're doing something where those values align and you're driven by a purpose and you're getting to fulfill that purpose, it just feels like something different to work.
Just tell us a bit more about the coaching that you specifically do then, and why you do that specific form of coaching.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in positive psychology, not in the academic sense of it, but I always had a thing through my career where I just used to get fed up of these meetings. You'd have an end of year review, or you'd have a thing and someone would sit there and they'd go, oh, yeah, you're doing great, but you need to be more like this. You need to do more of this. You need to be more like this. And basically what they were doing was trying to make me into them, trying to make me fit into a mold of what they thought everybody had to be like. And it never really worked for me, because, maybe it was a little bit of stubbornness or whatever, but I'd be the person that would go, actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to achieve that, but I'm doing it my way, not your way. And that's why I believe in the positive psychology part of it, because I just think, everybody's unique. Everybody is talented. Everybody can achieve stuff. but they're going to achieve it much quicker and to a better level if they're doing it in a way which is natural to them. And guess what? You do something that in a way that's natural to you, you actually enjoy doing it as well. So you're engaged and then you do more of it. And yeah, it just goes on from there. So I qualified as a Gallup certified strengths coach back in 2022. I've been working with that for probably about 10 to 12 years before, and loved it as a tool. So I thought I really want to get more into this. And that's probably the foundation of the coaching that I do, because you just get some amazing results with it when you've got people that are coming to you and they're just a bit stuck. And rather than going and sort of telling them or getting people to do things which are unnatural, just giving people that belief of, look, you've already got this within you, it's in there, helping people to find what their way is and what the best way is for them. That's kind of the cornerstone of it.
Tell us a bit more about that. What is it? What's strengths coaching? Why is it helpful?
Yeah, so it goes back a long time without getting into any of the technical bits with it. I mean, it just works on the principles of working with what's right with people rather than what's wrong with people. And that's a powerful thing in itself. And the other reason I love it, some of these assessments, you get labeled and put into a particular box. This one works on those 34 themes of talent that everybody will have in different orders. The focus of it is on the top 5 and then probably 6 till 10 because they're pretty prominent as well, rather than the traditional types where you go, oh, what's my bottom ones? Let's look at my bottom ones and let's focus on them. No, let's look at your top ones. Let's really engage with them. Let's supercharge them. Let's work on them more. How can you do more of those top things? And then the bits at the bottom end that are people, they're not weaknesses, they're just the things that people don't prefer doing or naturally gravitate to. How can you aim some of those strengths from the top to achieve the same sort of things that you would achieve traditionally with the themes of talent that are lower down? The other thing I really love with it as well is it views difference as a good thing. So there's a whole thing in power of partnerships. If you're strong in particular domains and in particular types of strengths, the ideal partnership is not someone who's going to be like looking in the mirror and be more of the same. It's actually that opposite person at the other end. So, if you're heavy on your strategic thinking and influence as I am, my best partners in most situations will be people that are very high on the relationship building and the execution domains, because we can work.
That's why I always think I'm kind of similar to you. I'm sort of bigger picture, but I need people around me who actually do something.
Yeah.
The execution, right?
Yeah.
Because to people like us, that sort of blue sky thinking, this strategizing and big picture stuff, that's actually quite fun for us, isn't it? It doesn't feel particularly like work.
It is, and you need people that understand the consequences of the decisions and the brave stuff that I'd be doing, and it would make my decisions better and it would make things more effective when someone would go, whoa, slow down a little bit, or have you considered this? How's that going to come into it? And I go, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. There's that element, but then there's lots of great people out there who love it when someone's come up with this idea and this plan, which is very sketchy. But there's a lot of people out there that the bit that really presses their buttons is getting that sort of thing and turning it into something that's really tangible and making it all work together and landing it, delivering it on time. Yeah, they're the people that I love working with and I'm really effective with.
So it took me quite a long time to realize that, sounds stupid this, but everyone's different, right? That everyone's got different strengths. So actually the things that you find kind of easier and fun, other people might hate, and vice versa. The stuff that I don't like to do, other people like to do. It's just kind of finding the right people in the right spots, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's one of the things. When that sort of point of difference happens, people will generally, the natural way for people is like, oh, that person's no good because they're not like me. Or, I worked with someone who did that before, that person doesn't do it in that way, so they're no good. The whole principle of this is whatever the problem you're trying to solve, whatever the objective you've got to achieve, if you can apply your strengths to it and do it in a way that's natural, you enjoy doing it and you get bloody good results with it as well. And I think it's always been a thing for me about, if you look at diversity in general, this is a really great tool for that, because it takes people beyond the sort of physical characteristics, whether it be ethnicity, whether it be gender, whether it be sexuality, whether it be about neurodiversity or whatever. And it's almost like you give people a language which is a positive language where they can start to see the good in people. And I think it's for me, it's always been powerful with that, because I think once you start appreciating someone for who they are, it's very easy to just keep doing more of that and have that mindset just opened up by it as well.
Fantastic. So you mentioned the Gallup strengths, and then you've also obviously done the ICF accredited course that we met each other on. Tell me a bit more about that and what took you down that path.
So the Gallup thing, obviously, it's a specific line around a specific tool. When I was doing the course, there's not a lot of coaching training in that. Most people do, they'd become a coach and then they'd do the Gallup thing. I did it backwards, which is a story of my life, really. But hey, did it my own way. So yeah, I wanted to kind of realize that, when you're in the corporate world and people always talk about coaching, the answer is, oh yeah, we'll coach them. Actually, very little coaching actually happens in the corporate world. Most people in the corporate world don't know what coaching is and don't understand coaching. And I was one of those, and I thought I was good at coaching, but no, I was probably giving people lots of answers and lots of inspiration, but it was more mentoring. So I wanted to learn it properly, which is why I did the course with ICA. And then the other reason, because I think you've got a lot of cowboys out there. It's one of those industries where, so anyone can quit a job tomorrow, call themselves a coach, and they're a coach. And I just don't believe that's right. I think if you're going to call yourself something, go and invest in your development, go and learn it. Then you can turn your own form, you can make it into your own form, you can make it yours, but there's got to be some sort of governance, some sort of framework, because if there isn't, then what makes people sort of stick to any rules or code of ethics. So I wanted to do it properly. So I did the training, got loads and loads out of that. Probably the biggest thing I got out of it was community. So coaching is a really weird thing. When you've come from the business world and you're used to, if you're doing business and you meet someone else who's doing the same sort of business or wants to do the same business as you, you're probably more likely to want to cut the head off or sabotage them rather than help them. But in coaching, everyone's been so giving and so supportive. So it's kind of like we all help each other out, because it's not like a competitive thing. It's like, as some of the conversations we've had in the past where there's an idea and we'll help each other to reframe the idea or to make that idea better. Not because there's anything in it for the person that that when you're helping the other person, there's nothing in it for you, but it's just kind of that community bit. And that's been amazing for, getting me through doing what I was doing.
And for those of people who don't know, could you tell people what is coaching?
So coaching, how would I describe it? It's what I see my role as a coach is it's unlocking what's already in front of me. It's helping the person that's come to me for coaching to find the answers that are already within them. It's just they don't know that the answers are there because there's a lot of stuff within the subconscious that you're not going to naturally pick up on your own. But through through coaching, there's loads of listening, and then it's just some powerful questions to provoke more thought. When you're talking to someone and some certain patterns start coming up, when certain things seem to be avoided and not talked about, it's just about trying to unlock that so that the person that's being coached can gain an awareness of what that really means to them. And it's not coaching and all this stuff about that you talked about in the corporate world about, bloody grow model. God knows how many years I heard about the grow model and thinking that was coaching. It's not. Coaching isn't just about the actions that you walk away with and having this list of I'm going to do this, and this. The really powerful stuff in coaching is when you get that moment of silence because a penny's just dropped in someone and they're like, oh my God, I've just really learned something about myself now.
Well, the oh shit moment. It's not that's a good way of saying it, but like the
And
kind of aha
I was trying
is
to
the
be
more
polite.
polite
Yeah,
way of saying it.
yeah,
The client sort of just looks kind of up to their left and goes, oh, right, that's why I've been doing that for all
yeah,
these years. It's kind of trying to get people to reflect, isn't it? And I think
yeah,
to your point earlier about the corporate world and this misconception about coaching isn't just telling people what to do. I think people think you might need something kind of almost a bit wrong with you, like you need to be a bit broken in order to need a coach. And B, that coaching is someone then just telling you like, oh, well, this is how to do it. This is how to like lose weight, or this is how to do whatever your problem is. And I guess in reality, there is a bit of educational element to most coaching. It's actually not pure coaching, is it? There's kind of mental coaching, but pure coaching, as we've learned, is really just the answers are all kind of within, and it's about trying to understand kind of emotions and what's driving people as much as what the outcomes they're seeking are.
That was put far more intelligently than I put it. I like that. It is just what you said there.
And in your new role as a coach, what do you think is like the most rewarding part?
It's when you get those moments with someone where they're in a session with you and they just get this, most like I even feel like the goosebumps talking about it, when you just see that moment where they've just realized something that is just so damn powerful for them. And you just know it's going to make a massive change or massive difference to them. And it's, there's just been so many of those moments, and they're the ones for me. It's when you can help them to uncover that, they realize it. And then when you're just following up, what can you do with that new awareness in other parts of your life? And then they're sort of thinking, well, it could mean this, it could mean this. And you just see all these possibilities that are out there for this person. That's when it's like, yes.
Yeah, totally. Like, it's going to be life, just sounds cheesy, but it can be life changing. I remember one coaching session I did where the lady was trying to take an action without giving too much worry about this particular case. And then she just realized she was hyper independent. And then it was like, she just realized, well, because I'm hyper independent, I've been doing everything this way. But if I actually realized I could work with other people on this, it unlocked so many opportunities. And then it was kind of that aha moment where it's like, well, why haven't I been doing this? And how would you describe the Steve coaching style? What's your coaching style?
I'd say very in the moment, because I do try to pure coach, because it's for me, it's the most powerful. And that's kind of what you learn going through the whole ICF accreditation. You don't know what the issue is, or the goal or the problem or what's on their mind when the client comes into you. So you got no idea of that. And that's probably the most powerful bit, is that you're literally going with the flow. But I'll always be quite bold. So my personal values come through in my coaching a lot. If there is something that I'm sensing, I will bring it out and I will ask about it. I will ask questions around that. I will push people a little bit sometimes when I think it's going to be the best sort of impact for the person. When something's being avoided, if someone doesn't want to talk about something, that's absolutely fine, then you leave it, but you still evoked awareness that there is something within that. So yeah, very, very, very go with the flow, very positive as well, because there's always lots of encouragement, lots of curiosity, and then just, instilling some belief in someone that, what the actions that they're coming up with, the stuff they're talking about, that, they've absolutely got it. And that's probably how I describe.
Great.
Change and uncertainty, because a few reasons. I mean, change has always been something that I've been personally comfortable with. It's something that I've personally sort of found, I find change is exciting. When something is a bit like unknown, it's like, yeah, what's going to happen next, what's coming next. And actually, again, it's coming back to the values part. It does align with my values. So, values of boldness, of authenticity, of curiosity, they're three that really fit into that as a niche. And my Clifton strengths as well.
It's just very like you though, isn't it? You've just found the areas that you're most passionate about. That's what I'm getting from you anyway.
Yeah, it is. And I think you kind of have to. I mean, you can, the niche, I don't think the niche matters too much in coaching, but it's that point you've just made there. You've got to be really comfortable and really excited by the sort of topics that you're going to be predominantly dealing with. And change is one without, when something's a bit sort of up in the air, I'm like, oh, well, that's it. In previous jobs I've had, they've always like, God, you do like a little bit of chaos. And yeah, I do, because, good things come out of chaos. So yeah.
You're comfortable in that kind of, which is important for change, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, eternal optimist as well. I mean, even in my own life, when things have gone badly wrong in the past, I've always had this inner belief that things will always go good. And, when you look back at things that have been bad events or things that have gone wrong, would you actually change them if you've got the sort of outlook that, okay, you wipe that out, but then look at all these good things that happen to you afterwards, because they'd be gone as well if you change that path of time. So I think that eternal optimism really helps in that niche as well, because, it's like if you're facing something which is uncomfortable, which is scary, which is unknown, I think if you've got someone in front of you that believes that there's going to be a load of really good stuff coming around that corner, I think it kind of helps people to believe that a little bit in themselves as well.
So you've now changed your life, really, haven't you, over the last few years, moving from the retail career that you had and now into this new coaching career. I'm just wondering what the most significant insights you've gained from that experience are.
I think the big one is aligned to your purpose. I think as I said earlier, when you're aligned to your purpose and you live in your values, then life is generally pretty damn good. I think they're the bits, and that for me is worth far more than any sort of material stuff or financial rewards or whatever, because that stuff just never really made me happy. You know what it's like? You'd get that promotion and you'd be like, yeah, I got promoted. I've got this job title. I've got this salary now. And then a couple of weeks later, you'd want the next thing, or you'd just be like, oh, okay, I'm going to be doing this for the next couple of years. Then what am I going to be doing? That's not happiness. That's not enjoyment. That's just, I don't know, it's like being that hamster on the treadmill, not really getting forward, but running really fast.
Did you ever kind of get sucked, or I think everyone has at some point, haven't they, bought the fancy watch, but can you remember anything like that? The cliche about the kind of fast car or anything?
Yeah, I used to be that person. It'd always be like having fancy shoes, designer this, designer that, a nice car. And that life, I kind of just left that behind because it was nothing. If I look at what I've done with the move to Spain, we live in the smallest house in the street and it's an old traditional townhouse. Our car, where I've had like Jags before, our car's a Fiat Panda. All these sort of things. And do you know what? We get far more satisfaction from that smallest house in the street and that Fiat Panda, because it's an adventure and it's where we are. It's an enabler to set up this business and for us to have the life we wanted, near enough to a city. If we want to go back to the city life, we want to be near the coast. We want some countryside around us and we want to have a dog. And that was the dream. And those little simple things, I think they just make me happier.
It's really inspiring. How did you figure this all out though? How did they get from the rat race, to where you are? If they want that, everyone's different. I think important to remember for myself, particularly, a lot of people like that stability and they like that. They're not all entrepreneurial, want their own businesses and that type of thing. But I'm interested from you, how did you come up with the dream?
I think it was a joint thing, really. So there was kind of two elements to it. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time. As I said, I just knew I needed to do something different. And then my whole thing about connecting with my purpose and working out that, hang on, this is what I want to do. My wife's dream since we got together was she always wanted to go and live in Spain. She's like, I want to live in Spain. I want to live in the sun. And it's like, yeah, that appeals to me as well. Because again, I had talked about it in the past. I mean, I looked at moving to Spain probably about 17 years ago. It was like, yeah, that's something I might want to do. So those things just kind of aligned and then it fitted really well together, because if I was going to stay living in London and I was going to quit a 6-figure job, I couldn't do that. It wouldn't be possible, because you have to jump into the unknown in order to do that. And cutting down our cost of living and going for a simpler way of life, it became an enabler for it. Kind of the method I use with these things, and I try and help clients to do it as well, is if you're kind of stuck with what you want to do, just fast forward and just ask yourself, well, what's that best life that you can imagine for yourself? What's it going to be? What are you going to be doing? And I think once you get a little bit of clarity of that, then you can almost work backwards. So it's like, okay, that's going to be in 5 years' time. What do you need to be? What are you going to be doing in 3 years' time? Then what needs to happen between there and there? And then suddenly you've worked out the steps, rather than do it the traditional way, which is I'm going to do this, and this, which I probably spent 20 years of my career doing. And, guess what? I was running up the wrong staircase for me. So I ended up in the wrong destination. At least this way you're destination focused and then you can kind of work it out. But then you've got this picture of what this life's going to be. You can see it, you can feel it, you want it. And then suddenly you're driven to go and take those steps to do it. And it feels a little bit less scary.
Brilliant. That's amazing. It's just kind of start with the end in mind, isn't it? I always remember that, reading that Stephen Covey book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, years ago. That was one of the big things to take away from that. Just start with the end in mind. Where are you trying to get? It's obvious, but where are you trying to get to and work back? I remember also when you were speaking there, I read a book by a guy called David Sawyer, who wrote a book on financial independence, retire early from a UK perspective. And he described having this kind of vision of him and his wife sitting in fact, it was, I think, in Spain as well, sitting having a glass of sangria with the sun setting, but it was very kind of like visual. His kind of dream was. I wonder
Yeah.
if yours was quite visual as well.
Yeah, exactly that, because I'll probably tie my key Clifton strengths to it. So I've got futuristic in my top 5, which means, I'm always thinking about the future, and I can really paint these vivid pictures of what everything's going to be like and how amazing it will be. And then I've got strategic as my number 1, which means once I've got that vision, I can pretty much work out what the steps will need to be. And then I've got self-assurance in there as well, which means I'll just back myself to go do it. So I think that there's a big element of that in there. And then again, it kind of works with where my better half strengths lies, Miss Positivity and Miss in the moment. So she won't plan anything. She wouldn't plan tomorrow because it's today, right? So she's like, no, I'm going to focus on living today. So that kind of works because there's no fear in either of us for it. And it works well because I can help to paint that future picture and work out how we're going to get there. And she helps to bring me back into the now, which is something I've always really struggled with, like being present and being in the here and now and appreciating today, because I'm always thinking like a year ahead. So again, we kind of work really well with that. And I think that's probably been a big factor in us, having the guts to do what we've done.
And how has your perspective towards life changed over the last few years?
I'm a happier person. And I'm probably a more relaxed person. I still struggle with being a relaxed person because I can still be a bit of a highly strung up type every now and then, because it's just kind of, I like to have control of life. I like to be like, right, come on, this is it, I've got this. So I'm trying to let that go. I've been working on that. And a lot of that came out in the coaching I was receiving as well. So I've learned a lot about myself through being coached. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the perspectives. And then, do you know what? I don't worry too much about the future anymore, because might be naive, it might be stupid again, but the amount of people that you come into contact with in life, when we were talking about what we were going to do in Spain, the amount of people you'd speak to that would be, oh yeah, I was going to do that, but I'm going to wait until then. And then you start going out into some of these places and you see people that have made the move, but they can't enjoy the move because they're too old or their health's given up. It's just like, hang on, I don't want to go and do something brave when I'm in my 70s and I've got health conditions. I want to go and do it now, and I really want to embrace it and I really want to enjoy it. So I think that's probably been the biggest outlook change, not being uptight or too concerned about what comes next, because future's not a given, is it?
No, definitely not.
I think the only thing with the move is, and the move and the setting up the business, was the timing. So I moved out on the 20th of December. And that was when I was like, right, no, I've had the business going in the background. This is when I'm in it now. I'm full on. What an idiot, honestly. Going out to try and start doing business on the 20th of December when you're not going to be able to speak to anyone until the 13th of January. I mean, Jesus, how could I? It just
You must have been enthusiastic about it. You're going out on the
done this thing. So then I'm there, and I've gone from, I had a full-time demanding job and doing some of this on the side, and then before that I was doing the demanding job and the coaching certification and all these things. And then you get out there and you're like, right, I'm gonna get doing my business, and you're like, I can't talk to anyone because everyone else in the world's on holiday and everyone's doing this. And then you start worrying, and then you start panicking, and you're like, oh geez, what have I done? So I wouldn't have done that. I would have left it a month later, because I've only experienced like 30 years of work, and for each of the 30 years I've worked, January's been shit in every business, and I decided to launch in January. So yeah, that was a bit stupid, but hey, it's a story to tell.
It talks to your passion, doesn't it? Like, it was just kind of in you. It's like when you're sort of beside, like when you have that moment where you realize you kind of either you love them or you need to split up with them. You kind of just need to get it off your chest. As soon as you realize it, it's kind of like that. It's like you just need to get out there and start this. Do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can all, I think, relate to that.
And I probably felt a bit guilty because I think the first couple of weeks I was living over there, and we'd spent 4 months apart because Marketa had moved out 4 months before me to sort of get things set up, because that's her way. Because if she's on her own doing it, she's just going to roll with the punches and get it all fixed and figure out a way. But yeah, I was probably a bit of a dick for those first 2 weeks because I was just so stressed out with myself. So yeah.
It's really interesting though, because it's like, it is stressful. The change is stressful, for anyone, isn't it? So it creates its own pressure. I think, like you were describing earlier, like I've left this job. Basically, you kind of need to make this work, and you need to take some action, and that's the kind of person you are. So it's kind of almost inevitable that there's going to be some stress along the way, right?
Yeah, there is. And again, I think it's good you get those bits and you encounter that. It's just what you learn from it. And big thing with me is just learning to switch off, learning to go, actually, I'm not going to be thinking about anything today. I'm just going to be more in the moment. And I think the pressure was higher for me because it was like, we've made this commitment, we've done this move. Ultimately, if my business doesn't work, then what are we going to do then? We'd have to sort of sell up if we can sell up and try and come back with my tail between my legs and another good story to tell. So yeah, there was a lot of pressure, but I probably didn't deal with that very well myself. I should have been a little bit calmer. And I think that's that power of partnerships bit, because we're both pretty much the same, where we're like, "Oh, don't worry, it'll all be fine. Everything's always fine." That there was no one in the equation to sort of go, well, have you really thought that part of it out? And then I probably would have gone, oh yeah, of course. It's January. January's never going to be good, is it?
What advice would you give to listeners who are like contemplating similar changes in their lives? And obviously it's not a coaching podcast. It's just about change and understanding people's stories and how they've gone from perhaps one lifestyle to another. So yeah, what advice would you give to someone else?
I think if you've genuinely got the desire to do something like that, and it's something that inside you want, you have to do it. You have to give it a go, because I've always had this thing about regret. And I think regret is the most toxic thing that you can have in your life. I think, if you imagine you're 80 years old, you're on your deathbed, you don't want to be thinking back about the direction that you could have gone in and the things that you could have done, because it'll be those things that you'll think about. It won't be the job you had in 2024, or the salary you used to earn, or the car you used to drive, or the house you lived in. It'll be about, I could have done this, I could have experienced this, and I didn't. And I would not want any of those could have done and didn't do moments. And then I think leading on from that, all you have to do really is make a step, because again, you can procrastinate over things. You can wait for it all to be well thought out and perfect. It's never going to be a perfect plan. It'll never be really well thought out, and there'll always be a reason why you shouldn't do it. There's something in that power of just making a step. You take that small step, and guess what? You're a step closer. And then you can take another small step, and you're another step closer. So I think you get to a point, you just have to believe in yourself. You have to back yourself, and you have to do it. And if things go wrong and things don't work out well, I gave it my best shot. You've got a story to tell, rather than being on that deathbed and having a big thing called regret eating away at you because you could have done all this stuff, but you didn't do it.
And it's never going to come out the way you expect or plan, is it? It's always going to change, either change a lot or change a little, but just accepting that it's going to be a different path from whatever you set out to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, as I say, you just have to, there's always going to be unknown. I mean, look, I'm back in the UK. I've been back in the UK since mid-Feb, so it's another 5 weeks that we've been apart, and that's because of red tape and visa issues. Something that should take a maximum of 2 months has taken 5.5 months.
Don't mention it. This is meant to be an upbeat show, Steve.
Don't get me going on that. Don't get me going on that. But no, it's one of those. I could be down about it. I could be feeling sorry for myself, or it's like, look, we are where we are. Let's just try and make the most of it. And again, it's kind of another story to tell, and it's something to look back on together and go, hey, remember when that happened and we did this and we did that. It's a learning experience. You learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about each other, you learn about the relationship, and actually you learn about what each of you is capable of. So you just have to roll with it. Once you're committed, roll with it and just make the most out of things.
I love that philosophy of it's just another good story. I think that's a great philosophy to go through life with. Things happen and it's kind of bad but funny or whatever. You can look back and think, oh, this will be a funny story to tell a mate, or it will be a funny story to think back on. I think that helps to reduce the stress in lots of situations. I'm wondering, you mentioned earlier a little bit about finances. But I think that'll be of interest to people as well. But how did you navigate the finances of going from having a job over 100 grand a year to having a lot less than that, presumably at the moment, whilst you build your business?
Oh, do you know what you're asking? If you could pick anyone to come on your podcast to give financial advice, I would be that worst person ever. Honestly, I mean, I've always worked really hard, as I was saying at the start. I messed up massively in my late 20s. We bought a business which failed massively. My partner at the time, she wanted to own a pub, so we got a pub, and things didn't work out there. I ended up doing a day job and the pub. I ended up bankrupt at 30 as a result of this.
Oh, wow.
And I look back at it completely. I'd take ownership for it because I made the decision to go in and do that and to invest in that, even though I wasn't really running it at the time. So yeah, I had to bounce back from that. And then when I was divorced when I separated in 2017, I left the house behind and all of the finances there. So literally I've started again in my life twice. So yeah, I'm the worst person in the world for financial advice, but that's kind of what led us to the whole sort of downsize thing, because, I could have done the sensible thing and got back on the property ladder in the UK, invested in property, done this, done that, or follow my dream and just kind of go with it and take a simple life. So, but we bought our traditional work in town in Spain. It's not like these things that you see on like these glamorous programs of these big villas with swimming pools and that. This is a small townhouse living in like a local community and whatever. So we've just completely cut back on those flash and fancy things to make things enable. So I guess it's like I ended up in the situation that determined the rest of my life in reality, because I was never gonna be like flash, fancy and rich again. But I still had this dream. I still wanted to make a massive change in my life. So the way to do that is to kind of downsize a little bit and change what you want, change what you expect, and then you can still follow your dream.
I mean, I think that is great advice though, and people can learn from that it's recalibrating, looking at your values and saying, no, it's not about having the jag, it's about doing what I love to do, finding what you love to do. You found the passion, you can tell that by speaking to you, and you're able to live that kind of every day. You're not going at 5:30 into, to work for, in a retail job that okay, it was a job at the time, but, now you're doing your true passion. And the other bits of financial advice are probably no divorces.
Don't do that. But not good for your pension, not good for your future finances. But hey,
you said, in the new lifestyle that you've got, you're a lot happier. Has that had ripple effects and changed relationships elsewhere in your life?
I think I'm just generally more appreciative. It's little things, just little things make more of a difference. And, I can find enjoyment now. It's like, when I'm in one of my favorite things in the morning when I'm back home in Spain is, just pop out in the morning for a couple of coffees and just sitting outside a coffee shop, just seeing life going on around. And I think when you're feeling more appreciative yourself, guess what? You start to notice different things. So you start to notice the smile on other people's faces. You start to notice positive interactions between people more that you probably would have just overlooked before. So I think, being more appreciative is definitely something that's come out of this.
Looking forward now, what's the vision for the future? Have you set yourself any goals?
So I kind of have obviously I want it to work. I don't want to be rich. I'm not interested in that. I want my business to be able to fund an okay, comfortable life that enables us to do the bits that we want to do. If we can buy a camper van so we can kind of tour around Europe a little bit. We like our holidays. We want to get back doing some traveling. They're kind of the bits. And do you know what? If I can start earning a decent amount of money with the coaching, I'd like to do more of it for free. Because, as I said earlier on, I like to help people out that are not in a position to probably help themselves out. So I'd like to do a lot more giving back. And as I say, if I get the opportunity to do that, then I'll do even more of that. I still do a bit of it at the moment, but I'd like to do more of that as well.
Yeah, giving back. It's great. I'm interested in concepts around freedom. So just wanted to ask you, whilst I've got you, what that means to you. How do you define your personal freedom?
But do you know what? I think there's a lot in freedom about mindset. I think freedom's actually within rather than anything else. So again, if you look at my situation, if you look at me financially on paper and what we're doing, we shouldn't be doing this. It's reckless, it's stupid, it shouldn't be a thing. But I think because we've got that mindset of wanting to do it, believing we can do it, and that appreciate that and that like appreciate the smaller things, that to me is freedom. And you know what, I've even learned something about this in the last, I think particularly in the last sort of 5 weeks where we've been separated again. I've had to come back to the UK. I think you start to learn that it's not so much the place you're in, it's who you're with that matters. You don't have to be in the best place in the world or whatever, but if you're with the people you want to be with, that's a big part of freedom as well.
I really like that. So the being with the right people. I've always found that traveling as well. Like if you go traveling, it's really, you look back and think it was the people I met along the way and the experiences you had with the people rather than the temple you went to or this that you saw. It's, sometimes you just find it's the game of cards you had on the beach with some random people that you learnt a couple of things from along the way that is really the great and joyful thing about a lot of certainly my travel experiences.
Yeah, and the travel's such a big thing for that. I mean, I'm not massively traveled, but again, if I think of everywhere I've been and the memory of each place, it's always around people and it's around, as you say, the people that you've met. But it's that simple things. But, if we're ever traveling anywhere, we'll always avoid the restaurants in the main square with the pictures on the menu. We'll always go like back street and find the place that looks a bit crappy from the outside, but all the locals are in there. It's like, that's the place we're going to, because you're in the culture then and you remember those places, you remember the culture, you remember that tradition stuff. They're the bits.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, on that, well, we've segued to this freedom challenge, which I'm trying to make a regular part of this podcast. So what this is it's a challenge for the listeners if they want to take it on, and me. And the idea is the guest is going to give us a challenge to do that will push them outside their comfort zone, something that maybe we could trial from kind of between one podcast and the next. So don't know if you had a chance to think about that, Steve, and if you've got anything for us.
Yeah, I think it goes back to this best life imaginable. I think that for me is a big part of this. So I think that my challenge would be to just sit down and think about what is your best life imaginable. Take out all the preconceptions, take out all the rules, take out all the boundaries, and just start writing it down or start recording it. What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? Where are you going to be? What are you going to be doing? Leave out the majority of the physical material things. And once you've got that, see what impact it has for you. Because when you talk about freedom, I think that's one of the things, because actually you're freeing yourself to go and live the life that you really want to live. So I think that would be my challenge, to just try that exercise, because for me, it was really, really powerful.
Amazing. That's our first freedom challenge then. So I'll give that a go, and hopefully other people out there who hopefully will hear this can give that a go, and I'll come back with the next podcast and record how I got on with that, Steve. So thanks very much. I love that. It's a great challenge to take on. It's been fantastic speaking to you. Really appreciate your time. Absolutely love the story of the journey, what you've done, the risks that you've taken. So I think you have taken risks, especially with other experiences you've had in your life, and you've obviously got that positive mindset and can just move on. And yeah, I found it very rewarding speaking to you. You've clearly got such a passion that came across when we were chatting today, but also with my other experience of you, you've got a real skill set for understanding other people, understanding the scenarios they're in. You've got great ideas, innovative ideas. So I'm sure you're going to help loads of people and be very successful with your coaching. Thank you. Thanks for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.